I suffer from my art. Now it's your turn.
Last night, I was on Instagram and suddenly there was this non-smoking gummy that's out. And at first I saw George Clooney talking, and then it was Leonardo DiCaprio, then it was Snoop Dogg. And I was like, hold on a minute, their heads look like, and then I went, this is a deep fake AI. So someone's AI commercial to
Yeah.
promote this. And I was like, that's not really cool.
No,
But it
all
was
that shit's gonna get flagged. I mean,
terrible.
somehow they're gonna find a way. Like YouTube is already searching that stuff out and killing it.
Right.
And there's all kinds of lawsuits pending right now against these AI companies for appearing to make someone famous say something that they would never say.
Yeah, it's like that cameo thing. The next thing you know, I'll be singing happy birthday to
Oh, fake cameos.
anyone out there, and it'll be like bullshit. It's not like it's even harmful in a way, but it's just
No, it
taking your
is.
shine.
It is harmful because you are your own intellectual property.
Yeah. I was
And
saying to somebody yesterday, that Geronimo on the Walk of Tears, and there were all these kind of government sponsored photographers trying to take pictures of these sad indigenous people as they're being marched off to Florida or wherever it was. And the chief said to them, don't let them take your photo because they'll steal your spirit. Yeah, your soul. And
mm,
so that's a phrase. And I think about that now. The image is king, the cult of this. Everybody wants to be famous. And the AI can make an ant famous these days by putting the head of Prince Charles on it, King Charles on it or something.
well, that is stealing your soul. It's stealing your identity. I don't think it should be allowed. I mean, if AI, I'm sure, is going to be and is amazing for a lot of things, but to allow it to steal somebody's identity and intellectual property, that shit's got to be stopped
Yeah,
one way or
really.
the other. And the record labels are already going after all these companies that are doing like fake Drake records. I mean, I don't know if you heard that was a big one, and,
Right.
and
I
all
did.
these other things. And rightfully so, they should, because at the end of the day, AI is plagiarism.
Yep.
Because regardless of how they jumble up the things that it scrapes from the internet, it's somebody else's information.
It's like everything in its infancy. They used,
Right.
the first business mankind knew was prostitution. And then when the internet came along, the first thing that business that started cashing in on the money was pornography. And then
Right.
now with AI, the first thing that's coming in is plagiarism.
There's an interesting lawsuit right now. The actress Charlize Theron,
Right.
some AI company cloned her voice and used it in advert,
Right.
and so there's a big lawsuit right now going on about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's really naff. I mean, the potential of what AI can do a million years worth of research in the medical world so that we can cure various cancers, awesome. Plot out
Yes.
how to save the planet with this, that, and the other, awesome. But do we really need to sell it to the public doing this? It's like, it's so shitty.
The whole AI thing is frightening in a lot of ways, and I think it'll do a lot of good, but
Yep.
they
Yep.
need to protect people's intellectual properties and their identities. And, otherwise it's just going to, I mean, how do that whole Trump assassination could have been AI generated?
Yeah.
It's like we're
Yeah.
living in the matrix. I mean, it's
Totally
not that
weird.
sophisticated yet, but it could very easily get to that point where the deep fakes are so realistic that people just believe it. And
It's like the
that's
Wizard of Oz.
it's dangerous, man.
In it, big projections. Oh, it's totally dangerous.
Mm.
But I think the obsession with the cult of personality is like one thing that AI could do is in the new future, it could invent personalities that it introduces to us, acting out a performance that
Well, it
don't
is.
actually exist.
It's actually doing that. One of the major labels signed their first AI artist,
Well,
a completely created AI artist.
It's weird. I mean, I'm seeing it more, even as a TV thing, you'll be watching the perfect visual goddess or god speaking something in the perfect tone. Oh, he sounds like Gregory Peck or some old actor can have a real like gravitas voice and do the thing that that you're supposed to do. But then it'll be no pay. And then SAG will be up in arms because jobs are being lost. It's a wacky week. The cyber technology crash, the whole.
I woke up to that news today. That's frightening. I mean, we've talked about this. It's like
Mhm.
it's been in the 110s here for weeks and weeks and weeks. If something happens to the power grid, I mean, people are going to die,
Yeah.
right?
And
You
so
know,
now you got the power grid plus the internet that runs the power grid
right,
going down.
right. So you can't access your money if you need it,
Yeah.
or it just what if it just all were to be wiped away?
Well,
You know,
that's where we're being led down this garden path.
yeah.
And you know, I was just thinking this morning about meditation. What is it? It's just a fancy word to basically shut the babble down for a
Hmm.
minute. And so much babble comes into our heads on a daily basis. Little fears turn into big paranoias, conspiracies. So meditation is to just shut the other you down, the one who's like constantly insecure and feeding on any validation of something that's going to fill your fear pockets up. And you just try and shut down for one breath, two breaths, 10 breaths, 100 breaths. And it takes a hell of a lot of practice to sort of draw the curtain in your mind. But today, it's you need the highest or the longest run up at any meditation, which is it's no wonder that most of the successful meditation spots are high up in the mountains, miles away. Right.
Well, yeah, you have to completely unplug
Oh,
in order for it to be effective, right? I mean, there's so much coming at you
yeah,
at one
all the
time.
time.
Everybody woke up today to this news that there was an IT breach. They said it was not an attack, or at least they're saying that now. Now, whether they're saying that to calm people down, who knows? But even if it wasn't, it's disrupted everything from flights to liquor stores and anyone on that network, and that's frightening. You
It's
know,
the vulnerability that is the message there. We still need to know that we are, democracy is vulnerable, where our information is vulnerable, my health is vulnerable, my if I say the wrong thing, it makes me vulnerable to attack. The word of the decade, vulnerability.
my mother used to say to me that I better pray for patience. She said it frequently, so frequently that I'll never forget.
You must have been that kid who was like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
I don't
Are we
think
there yet?"
no, but she used to take me to Minnesota Fabrics, which was a giant fabric warehouse.
Oh, I would
And
like to go
I
there.
would have to stand there for hours while she looked through bolts of fabric.
Tell your mum next time she goes, I'd love to join her because that's
Ugh, I told, and I joke with her that that was child abuse. Um, I don't know if she thinks it's funny, but it couldn't have been more boring for I don't know how old I was. I mean, little, I guess, probably 6.
yeah, true. I mean, I imagine at 6 it would have been a bit mind numbing, but when
Yeah.
when I was 36, I was all up in that fabric world.
Well, yeah, because you were making the hats.
Yeah. And the good thing about the hats is that you only needed a few meters of. So I would be going to these dealers who dealt with just the offcuts. So they didn't
Ah,
have thousands of yards. They just had 200 yards of this. And
like
it
the
would be,
garment district in there?
yeah, really good quality, like fake furs. And when polar fleece was just coming out, there was a good grade of that. And that was my niche. And so I was going out and getting all this stuff. And I'd find like a 50, 60 yard thing, and I'd make a sort of little series of hats from it. And I learned from the accessory buyer that the whole fashion world, it starts with the shoes because they take the longest to fashion and get the leather right. So the style of the shoe, and then you go through the up the legs to the shirts and the jackets, and then you end up on the hat, which is like the little whimsy on the top. And you're always fighting with the hair product people. These days, people have spent so much on their hair that to get them to put a hat on is like sacrilege.
See, that's not a problem for me. I have a huge collection of
Yeah.
hats.
Well, that's it. There's a lot of bald men around nowadays, but in New
And
York,
it's thank God it's okay. And like it's not like in the 70s when it was like the kiss of death for a guy to go bald.
it's the new cool, isn't it?
But I wear baseball hats all the time and I wear them out a lot. And people always accuse me of trying to hide the fact that, I have no hair. And I'm like, no, my head's cold, man. It's like I don't
Yeah.
worried about I'm not I'm not worried about it. It was probably 12 years ago. Debbie walked up to me and she's like, dude, it's over. Buzz your head.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I've never looked back. I just
Yeah.
don't. Although I do occasionally have dreams where I have this luxurious hair and I wake up and I'm not really bummed, but
And you're in Wayne's World.
yeah, I can
Do,
see that
do,
though. I could see that as being a challenge though for a hat maker, right?
yeah, it is. Well, all you need
Never
is a
thought
good New
about it.
York winter to come along, and everyone's begging
Right.
for a hat, right? And so, but I shaved my head as a just as a thing one time when I was living on my farm in France. I was shearing sheep, and I got some like these red ticks from them. And I was in the
Oh,
bathroom. I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Yeah!" I had a freak out, so I just shaved my head to get these ticks off. And I went, "Hold on a minute!" I had my free Tibet moment, so I like wrote "free
well,
Tibet" across my
nah, man. When
forehead.
you guys played LA when I was living there, I
Yeah,
think it was the Key Club. You had a full on buzz.
yeah, it was balled
I
off.
have I have pictures of it
And you know what was
somewhere.
interesting as a front guy is it brought a completely different style of um, lady attention.
Well,
You
the
know,
girls that I was with a couple of agents that I was working on TV stuff with, and women of various ages, and they all thought you looked amazing.
I felt so liberated. I mean, the hair thing is like, it's it can get really in the way. So I shaved it off, and I was swimming a lot, so it was like get out of the pool, don't have to dry.
Yeah, I can
It's
tell you, it's one
awesome.
less thing I ever have to think about.
Yeah,
That, and you know what else I do? I have 10 of the exact same shirts in my closet,
nice.
and I just get up and I put one on. I have to think about it, and
That's that French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. He was known for having 11 gray suits.
is that right?
Yeah, and that was his look. And the painter Magritte,
So
same,
I'm in decent
seven gray
company.
suits. Yeah, you just wear the same thing. And I think Zuckerberg tried to get that look going with just the gray T-shirt. It's like,
Oh yeah.
don't see the shirt, see the man, see the
There's
face.
there's well, that's not why I do it. I do it because I'm lazy. And now
But
on
they
the
look,
weekends, like if I don't have to leave the house, it's whatever. But if I'm going out or doing a video or going out to mix a show, it's the same. I just open the closet and pull one out and put it on. And it's one less thing I have to think about along with my hair.
yeah, it's great.
So I have
I'm fine
very
with that.
little responsibility with all of this.
I'm the other way. I'm like a slave to my shirts. It's
You're a
like, oh,
pretty
get
boy
this one.
lead singer,
Yeah.
you
That's
know.
like I remember Trevor Moraes, the guy that owned Farmyard Studios. He was a drummer. Used to
Why do I
play
know that studio?
he's played drums. We made all our good records there at
Ah, right.
Farmyard Studios.
Right.
He used to say lead singers are just male models. He had he had that northern drummer disdain for the idiot up front who, if it wasn't for the band, you'd just be out of a job. And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, but you know what? I'm gonna run with that."
But as pretty as you were in your early years and still very handsome now,
No, I don't think
you're
so.
always a great singer and a great lyricist. So it wasn't like it was just a vapid, you know,
Yeah, there was a lot
some of
of
the lead singer situations.
well, there's the whole one-hit wonder world that we were fighting. Some people still think we were a one-hit wonder, and there was a whole stream on the Facebook thing with the fans the other day, and
I saw that.
I was like, you know what? I like the fact that there's still people that think we were that because our job's not done. We have to go out and still work. And I love it when someone says, "This is my first fixed live show, and I never knew you had all those songs."
That's
And
exactly. I've brought so many people to your shows over the years, and it's a constant, "Oh,
yeah,
oh." So for whatever reason, you guys are one of those bands that people will say to me, "Oh, fix." Of course, everybody. If you mention one thing leads to another, everybody immediately goes, "Yeah." But then, and I did this not long ago with a friend of mine. We were out in Vegas, and I just brought up a bunch of Red Skies and Standard Fall and Are We, and every single one he was like, "Oh, I had no idea," and I
yeah.
wonder why that is.
Well, I think it's kind of testament to the fact that we're five pretty different guys. So we could never really define on an image that was going to sell the band. Like we weren't really new romantics. We weren't this, we weren't that. We weren't, some of us had a bit more style than others. Others were a bit more hippie than others. Some didn't really care about it. And it all became about the music. But at that point, we were even, with the photo shoots, it was always a little bit awkward. And so it was hard to pigeonhole us. And the videos were we tried to sort of make videos that were a little bit more cerebral. But then along came Madonna in her tartan dress, and it was all about how many units were going to be in Target the next day after her video was released. So videos for us became not a great vehicle to show the style of the look. So we stuck with the music, and I think after Reach the Beach and the Phantoms album, we became quite a dark band. I thought as a writer, we were darkening
Yeah,
as the
for
skies were
sure.
darkening, our mood was darkening, and we had a long road to learn how to perform, but it had fuck all to do with the way we looked.
Right.
It
Well,
was
it
just
was always to me, it was always you and Jamie that were the face of it,
mhm.
the face of the fix, and then of course because I was a keyboard player, I was dialed into Rupert
Yeah.
and what he was doing, but the average person, you know,
Well,
wasn't. But
yeah, we all
keyboard
have our own
players were,
separate fans, if you like, for people
exactly, yeah.
into the thing. But like I say, we were in charge of this big noise that it sounds very busy, but it's actually a very empty soundscape that's kind of ethereal. And it allows I can just float these words into it, enigmatic words that get people in a mood. That's why the thing I love to see the most is every time someone sees the sunset, they take a picture of it and they go, "Red skies at night." It's like a little, it's an old shepherd's proverb. I didn't invent the phrase, but I stole it and put it into another niche. And I'm amazed just how beautifully long rock and roll has stuck around in people's lives. Like when they're in their car, the music is part of their identity. And then when they're looking out, it's like, oh, there's the sunset. Red skies at night, dude. It's like,
I was, what always made me amazed is when to listen to your, especially when I was in Cleveland and we were trying to cover these things as young musicians, it's very difficult to cover the fix well. And the music, it always seemed so intricate, right? And then you gave me the masters to Reach the Beach, which I'm sure every musician in the world would love to have their hands on that to dissect it and see exactly what you guys did. And it was amazingly simple. And but the end product didn't sound like it was simple.
well, a lot
The
of that was testament to Steve Taylor because he would make decisions as we were recording in the studio. He'd be doing live bounces. So
right.
when there was 8 tracks of vocals, he'd bounce them into a stereo pair.
Yeah.
Once Jamie had done his like banking of guitar sounds, bounced down. So you ended up with like literally 16 to 24 stereo tracks that were jam packed with little nuances
Well,
and
like
reverbs and things like that.
for instance, the background vocals, to one thing leads to another. We must have had 10 rehearsals to try to nail that. And it really wasn't that fucking complicated. Like what
No.
when I got the masters and I started pulling things off for the remix, I was like, Jesus Christ, we thought we just made it so much more complicated than it was. And that was a testament, obviously, to the production and the parts and how
Yeah.
things were.
Rupert Hine was awesome at that. He
Right.
would like take the lyric And that was his gift. He would build this thing at the end of a song where it would be one, no, shock, no, shock. And it would be building up, and there'd be like another sentence that would be building up across the one thing. He was so good at that.
Yeah.
And I remember actually being quite lost myself as the singer at the concept of it. And by the time he and Steve Taylor had stitched it together, it was like, I'd be like, fuck me, this is awesome.
Yeah, the records are brilliant, and it's testament to all the, the newer bands that have,
Mm.
I don't want to say ripped you guys off, but taken inspiration from
It's
the
the best
fix,
compliment anyone can pay you
like the
by.
Killers and numerous other.
Yeah, they went on. I mean, they've got their own thing now, the Killers,
Yeah,
Franz Ferdinand, a lot of younger bands.
right.
Yeah, I think we're kind of proud about where we're at.
Yeah, you should
But
be.
I lie awake at night sometimes going, did it make any difference? I mean, I said that in my little post too. It's like that fear of imposter syndrome, or do you have a seat at the table to say anything other than what you've already said in the lyric? I personally think I've said my best thing to say is in the lyric.
Mhm.
And then after that, what I feel about it afterwards, it's that machine of that cult of personality feeding. And I'm a little uncomfortable sometimes with that. But other times, if I've, a bit more relaxed, I'll wax poetically over anything.
Yeah, I've noticed that when you're on tour, your personality is a little different.
Yeah.
When I see you, you're a little bit different than when we interact, a lot when you're off the road. And I wonder if that's a defense mechanism or putting up a little bit of a wall.
Well, you kind of
Or,
feel that you got to watch what you say. Things will pop out. And with a microphone on stage,
yeah,
and you could say the wrong thing at the right time, or the right thing at the wrong time, or best not say anything at all time.
yeah.
I'm sort of prone to those knee-jerk things. Um, and I think that Jack Black
I
and
was
his
just
buddy,
I was just going to bring that up.
they
I was going
kind
to
of
ask you if you saw that.
they had to disband,
Oof,
right? I was like, but it just shows you how people are ready to
man,
jump on anything.
man.
It's
One
like,
little off the cup comment, and that guy's, I believe his name's Kyle Gass,
yeah,
dropped by his agent. The tour's canceled. Future plans are canceled. And, it remains to be seen if it'll come back around when things cool down.
it's
But,
a
that's
powder
not,
keg.
that's not something to say
No.
on a microphone.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even really say it in private, but
No.
that's up to the individual.
Yeah. I mean, it's a powder keg out there.
Yeah.
Wishing someone ill or dead is pointless because we're all headed in the same fucking direction.
Have you
And
ever have you ever put your foot in your mouth on stage? Now,
oh,
when you were younger, everything wasn't videotaped, right?
yeah,
Nowadays, geez, every show, somebody trips, it's videotaped and it's on YouTube the next day. But did you ever in your career put your foot in your mouth and get any kind of repercussion?
yeah. I can't remember them now, but there's been
Oh,
many
come on,
times
they
where
got to be
where I
good. You got
hear
to share them.
or I hear, ooh, or down in Texas, there'd be shut up and sing, dickhead.
Well,
That's
yeah, that's
become a
Texas.
phrase. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
become a phrase around the house, and it's absolutely true. It's like become my motto. When I
yeah.
start to talk, I think, you know what? Shut up and sing, dickhead. But if I could talk, it's basically the excuse that I'm not writing a good lyric. And writing a good lyric gets harder and harder and harder. The more I'm self judging, or my mind is destabilized from my own purity, if there ever was any.
Right.
And sort of I feel like I have to get up and be in a crow's nest and look for land ahoy from the ocean of doubt. And so that's where I go. And I'm slowly calming the demons. I think I've actually bored them to death and they're leaving.
Well, you really do have to be, you really have to be careful about what you say because your audience is probably split Mostly because of maybe the age of, of some of them. I'm a fan and I grew up with you guys, and I'm not even gonna say how old, but there's a lot on either side, I'm sure, at your shows. And if you're going to say something political, you're always running the risk of offending half your audience.
Yeah. Well, there
Or
used to be this thing called universal truth,
nah.
but even that's
Oh,
been
that went away
pissed
a long
in.
time ago.
The wishing well has been pissed in so many times that when you pull up a bucket of hope, it's like, hold on a minute, tastes like someone's piss. So I always used to come from this universal truth place and sing about the undeniable. Red skies at night,
Mhm.
stand or fall. It's like two sides. There's a duality. So again, anger. There's both sides share anger. Both sides share fear of each other. So it's like the topics you have to deal with, the healing that I'm trying to put out there is actually cathartic. I'm trying to heal myself because I could just literally crack in half like someone crammed a cleaver down straight down my head and cut me in half when I try and understand what the fuck's going on.
Well, that's why we need to just move to Cabo
Yeah.
and turn off the interwebs. There was a documentary on just how much damage all of the constant barrage is doing to everybody. We're not designed for that. We just weren't designed to be completely pummeled
Well,
by
no, we're
information.
designed to sort of just be in a pod of 65 people
Right.
caring for each other. And so, hello, mate. Hello. Good afternoon, ma'am. And if there was anything wrong, it was just like a little pimple in the village.
Right.
But now it's like bird flu or COVID worldwide pandemic.
Now the
On
village is the world.
Yeah, but it isn't really because we think it is because we dismiss language is a cultural shift too. The way people speak reflects the way they think. It's not just black and white. And the English language has been very powerful at, since the Industrial Revolution. It conveys strength, it gets information, it's mechanical, it's direct, it gets shit moving. That's why we conquered half the world early on, whilst the others were sitting there, you know, staring at the stars and feeling different. Now they're catching up because they think that's the way to go. And English is the sort of world language. But the beauty of their own language, it reflects the way that they think about things. And the way they think about things may be a little bit more peaceful. We're very aggressive in our language. It's a very aggressive language. And speaking French, I know that in order to say, I love you, they'll have like a 6 sentence paragraph to say, I love you. It's like a bouquet of flowers. And it makes sense. And I noticed that French singers who have written lyrics have kept their audiences from the time people were kids all the way through all the generations. No matter what happens to them in their lives, they stick with them. And these things are like part of their culture. Whereas pop music, there's a few songs like Don McLean's big famous song, stayed with the culture. Few other brick in the wall, Pink Floyd, very defining kind of lyrics. I've always strived to make my lyrics survive and get in as part of a brick in the culture.
And they have, clearly. I mean, I hear your music every day. I hear it every day. I like to listen to Richard Blade
Mm. Ah,
and
Richard. Thank you, Richard.
every day. And then if I'm driving about, he's a huge fan. I'm sure you've been on his show
Yeah,
before.
he's a survivor. I mean,
Yeah.
I love his energy. He's as energetic today as he was when he was a starting up kid.
He does have a really great vibe, and I enjoy listening to his show all the time. And
Yeah.
you guys are always on there.
Yeah, he's a proper DJ, and he's grown up with this generation. It's thanks to him that we kind of like have stayed in the zeitgeist of
Well, but
radio.
lyrically though, those songs are as relevant today as they were then, if not more so.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you stay on those themes that stay on the where the pendulum, the fulcrum,
Mhm.
the balance may go left and right, but if you're the point that that is balancing on, that's where you really need to be. It's all suspended belief anyway. And people still have the right to change their minds, or at least they used to. People are suffocating themselves by denying the other truths just in order to feel that they believe something. What is belief? It's just a decision to go with something. And we all know that if you stop the flow, you're going to stagnate. And a lot of these thinkers out there have stagnated, both sides. It's the stink of stagnation is what we're feeling right now coming out of. And is this the best we can do? I mean, we said that
It
before.
feels pretty hopeless.
It does, because we need some fresh water, and that will be coming.
Truth doesn't seem to matter anymore. It just, you can say whatever you want, and there's a faction of people that will believe it.
I got a truth ache.
He's good. He write a song called "I Got a Truth Ache."
Yeah, truth ache.
I send you some little beautiful like wordly snippets every now and then. So
Yeah, I've
do you
got them.
do you ever admire those, or do you just think amateur?
No, I'm a glutton for when people come up with a little title. I'll go, thank you. I mean, Adam came up with the title "Reach the Beach." I
Oh
wrote
yeah,
this. I wrote the lyric, but he said, "Reach the beach." And I went, "That's good."
that's brilliant.
You know, so I reached, and he's always doing those kind of little suggestions where it's like dip, 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 and like there's countless fix songs that have started off in conversations with him or someone else about a little
He's an
title.
interesting guy. You know, I've talked to him many times. I tried to friend him on Facebook. He never accepts my friend request.
He won't friend anyone.
He's probably either not on there at all, or he's
That's
just
it.
not putting two and two together as to who I am.
He's not. He's not very busy on Facebook now.
Yeah, because we've chatted and hung out many times.
Lovely
You know.
guy. I mean, I owe so much to him for. Well, he kind of saw something in me that I didn't know I had, and he was the one who kind of. He's 4 years older than me and was dating my sister. And he came round the house and he was like, "Oh, you're pretty good." And he was at a band at college, and I went to see them, and I said, "Yeah, it's a good band, but songs are crap." And the only person who thought that was funny was him. And he said, "Well, why don't you come in and join in with what we're doing?" And he was a drama student, so I joined in with the acting
Really?
classes he was doing, and that got me out of myself. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to be doing acting. I want to be singing. And so I barged my way in like the little ugly duckling. And pretty soon I was the golden goose. Because of him, we were like known, we were our own little glimmer twins, and we hatched this plan. Like we would go out at night, make posters, and great idea. We would glue the record shop window door with our posters, so the guy who owned the store would have to go, "You fucking
Probably want to
arseholes." Yeah,
want
they
to
hate it.
kill you.
But it got noticed.
Yeah, it'll
You
get you
know,
noticed.
we had hundreds of no's, but you only need one yes.
That's what you've said, and that is the truth, man.
And he was the guy. I mean, he was loyal, persistent, creative with the ideas, and he was always supportive of me. And whenever I thought we needed to change it up, we'd fire someone and get someone else in. And every time we got someone else in, we'd become more serious about what we were doing. You know, Adam sort of got us driving along, but the day Jamie walked in was the day the fix was born. And Rupert
I
Rose.
knew he was amazing, but I didn't realize just what a genius he was until I started working with him on his music for the Facebook music library,
Yeah.
where I would redo all of his drums and then mix and stuff. And I mean, just,
Yeah, of course.
I
Yeah.
never knew what I was going to get from him.
Yeah.
And it was always great. And it
Yeah.
might be some weird track that changes time signatures 8 times. And I have to get a calculator out to redo the drums.
That's him.
Or it might be a straight ahead rock thing that was just amazing.
I don't think Jamie and I ever felt competitive, but we were just naturally back and forth, and he would really inspire me in such ways that I didn't even realize, and
Yeah, I've
vice versa.
never seen any kind of competitive. I mean, I only worked with the two of you on the Returning Sun record, but it was just friendship.
Yeah.
I felt no weird kind
No.
of vibe in between either of you, and I never have in all the times I've been around you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a real mensch to be with.
Yeah.
When somebody's that good, they're not insecure. When you make a suggestion with an idea, they'll go, "Yeah, take it on and make it better."
Plus,
And
he's just
that's the
like
gift.
the most lovely, gentle guy.
Yeah, he sure is.
The
So,
Sportsman's Lodge has spent a lot of time with you guys there. May it rest in peace.
yeah. What a
And
great hotel that was.
we're all there partying and hanging out and by the pool, and Jamie's walking around with a big cake, going, "Piece of cake, piece of cake." It's one of my favorite memories of him. My wife was there too, and she still talks about it to this day. Here's this rock star walking around very politely asking everyone if they'd like a
Yeah.
piece of cake.
It was always the title that got me, Sportsmen's Lodge, no apostrophe. So there's a lot of sportsmen's
I never even
running over
noticed.
there. It was such a weird.
It just had the best pool vibe, and bands always it was very popular with rock band.
Yeah,
There was
because you
always
could
bands
park the
staying there.
buses. You could
Always tour buses, yeah, always.
It was fantastic. Great place.
Yeah, I mean, that's gone, and that LA is gone too. We've talked before about mourning the loss of the New York that we loved. The LA is way different now too. It's
Yeah.
really changed.
I remember I was writing a song. I was writing a song in, I think it was 93, and I was due to go to LA when that big earthquake happened, the
Oh,
Northridge.
yeah.
And when I got there was just rider trucks heading out. My writing session, because I was with MCA Publishing at the time. And so I wrote a song called Leaving Beverly. And I turned sort of Beverly Hills into a woman and the reasons you were leaving her. And she'd sort of had this big breakdown and didn't have any time for me left. And so it was like,
Yeah, that was devastating, that quake. I mean, a lot of people left LA after that. I did some work with Joe Zawinul from Weather Report,
yeah,
and he had this beautiful estate in Malibu. And after that earthquake, he hightailed it to New York
wow.
and set up shop there. He was just terrified of it.
He passed away recently, didn't
It
he?
was a while ago. Yeah, he was a wonderful guy. I mean, I spent like 3 days in a studio with him.
Yeah, Noriacan Soul or something. I remember I had this album that he was playing on.
Such a cool guy.
He could really muscle up an atmosphere, and he had that kind of like,
I brought a keyboard over, and it was a prototype synth that Korg had released. And I'm like, I'll leave it with you so you can play with it. And the next day I come back and there's a joint sitting on it that burned a hole, burned a hole in the casing
so he signed it.
of one of these two new synthesizers that were in the country.
Nice.
And no one cared. It was like, I almost wanted him to sign it.
Yeah, that's like a signature in it, the burn hole.
And he had all these crazy master tapes of, Jocko, unreleased stuff. And he was a really, really interesting guy and a very cool guy. He left a huge impression on me.
I've been listening to Chet Baker recently
Ah,
because there's something about, I've been falling in love with brass and solo brass instruments with Kyle's performance and stuff. And there's something about Kyle that reminds me of Chet Baker, early Chet Baker, the kind of like pain, joy thing going on.
and he's got that going on that track I just mixed.
Doesn't he? It's
I
like
mean, it's
there's a
so
real
good. It just the you could just feel, you know what I mean?
yeah.
He's one of those players that can really emote it. And
It's the timing too of I feel like my chair's leaning.
he's playing around the the actual meter. Well, the whole track is, but
I'm learning a lot about vocal entries from working with him because the way a sax player enters into a track, it's not quite on the meter. It's like after the event. Well, sometimes a lyric needs to be after the event, especially if you're looking back and you're being reflective. You want these entry points not to be so bombastically on the one and do Mary Poppins hanging and all that. There's much more of a oh, my regrets and all this.
we this will probably be out before that track is released, but we should definitely put a link to it
Yeah,
because we've mentioned him in the last 2 podcasts, and
definitely.
it's worth people should hear that. All right, Cyril. Well,
All
it's
right, man.
always great talking to you.
All right, man. Leave you.
Bye.
Leave you.